it's Friday. It is the 29th of June. Clear all this stuff off of here. It's about 10 o'clock a.m. I'm backing out of my own driveway, and I come to you with yet another lesson on perception, perspective, and breaking old patterns, or at least dealing with old patterns, attempting to break old patterns. So I am driving out of my neighborhood, and this is the second time in the last 25 minutes that I have done this. And the backstory is we're trying to sell our house. We have a variety of other things going. If you have seen the most immediate preceding videos, you should have a pretty good idea of what's going on with our life, what we're trying to do, where we're trying to go. And you should also have a pretty good idea that I've dealt with some frustration issues, some lack of clarity here and there, some stress, and I've allowed my perception and perspective at times kind of lapse into a negative state of doubt and fear. And this whole process has been a learning experience in controlling, manipulating, identifying these aspects of my mentality, my personality. So, like I said, it's the end of June. I left my job in property management in March. That job, I was making over $50,000 a year, and our budget was based on that, and it was a comfortable budget. So I made arrangements to kind of cover a gap period, and then the idea was the house would sell and we would cash out the equity in the house, and it would carry me over until I could make this transition and start generating income, doing coaching and speaking, and possibly from revenue from book sales once I finish my book. And the idea was to get out of the high stress environment of property management and be able to spend more of my time clear and focused and finish my book. I wanted to really just kind of eliminate all those other distractions so I could really focus on and finish it up. So I left in March, and I wanted to put the house on the market immediately because I was like, if it takes a couple months, I want to be able to make sure that this gap money, this budget I have set up, covers us. And it didn't go on in March, and it didn't go on in April. As we start doing little things to the house, we're like, all right, well, maybe we should do this, maybe we should do this. And again, this is all covered in all the videos during that time that I made. And so I went on at the beginning of May, and we really tried to maximize our walkaway cash, because that's what we're going to be living on, by going through a FSBO. And I gave it 2 weeks on a FSBO, sale by owner, if you're not familiar, website. Paid $50 for it. I was like, you know what, $50 in 2 weeks, I can invest that, and we'll see what we get. I have purchased a home myself personally through a FSBO website.
No number available. Press Uconnect phone button and say text message to read it.
And I know people that have sold through FSBO websites, and it works. We obviously are licensed real estate agents. We don't do sales, but we are familiar with the process and the contracts to a certain extent, not enough to actually represent ourselves, because we don't do it. It's not our area of expertise. So I did that, and 2 weeks went by, and I decided, all right, well, there's an upgrade. We're going to go ahead and pay the $300 and some to upgrade this to an MLS listing so that we're getting more exposure, because 2 weeks went by and we had nothing, no calls. I was tracking it. We ended up with, at that time, about 300 hits that came up in people's searches. We only ended up with 2 views, I think, of the actual listing itself, and no contacts. So I did some research, and I reached out to a company and made arrangements, and they weren't able to do it right away. So we're looking. All said and done, it was about a week. I called them at the end of 1 week, and we had set up something for the beginning of the next week. But they never, the person that was supposed to come for this appointment never showed up. So I gave them a couple of days. Actually, I think 3 days. It was supposed to be, I don't remember. So it ended up being the end of the following week. So it was almost exactly a week. And I made the arrangements to go with another MLS listing site that was through the FSBO. And that one I was able to do. But by the time we were able to get all the documentation, get everything over to them, it ended up not being until the following week. So it ended up being a month, all said and done. I put it on in the beginning of April, and we didn't get it listed in the MLS till the beginning of May. We had an offer right away with a 10-day option period. That option period went to the very last day, and they terminated. So 10 days off the market, put us about mid-month. We put it back on, had a few more showings over a couple of day period, got another offer, get another 10-day option period. We got about 6 days into this one and terminated. Again, this is all kind of covered in some of the recordings through that period of time, because I was definitely dealing with some stress and some frustration from this process. So we made the decision to put it with an agent. I was just going to hire an agent, but we got the opportunity, or an opportunity presented itself, or it worked out that we could get it done for free, not having to pay one half of the, one side of the commission out. And we were like, all right, let's just do it. And so we were going to make that change. In the meantime, that property went back on the market after that terminated second contract, and we had nothing for several days, and that was when we made that decision. Like, all right, well, let's just cut ties. We'll just transfer it over. We'll have this other agent take care of it, a local agent, somebody that's more knowledgeable of the market and the processes and the local dynamics. And so we made that decision, but again, time. It took us another week or so. So all said and done, again, it didn't go down, reactivated, relisted until June, or maybe first week of June. So again, we've been marketing it, but we didn't get good exposure from the FSBO. So that was 1 month kind of dead, and then we had it on the market again, but due to offers and contracts and terminations, it really wasn't on the market for all that time, and it just extended how much the whole length of this process. So again, frustrating, but I covered a lot of that. So now we've got it back, and we have all these showings over a few day period, and we get another offer. And this one looks like it's going to be good. And this was right around you know what? I'm going to get gas after I'm done. around the 11th of June. I think it went on the market like during the first week, 5th or 6th, something like that. And we had an actual offer on the table that we accepted. It was a good offer. Actually, we ended up with two. One was a bullshit offer. I don't know why anybody would even submit something like that. The second was a good, solid offer. So we started the process again. It went off the market as active option. It, the same thing. Got to get inspections, got to get this, got to get that, and it's been an experience, but there's been little things along the way that have come up, and it's been, I'm just whatever. Anyway, during this process, it comes up that our home shows up on a floodplain map as in the 100-year floodplain. Now, when we bought the house, the people that sold it said that it had been in the floodplain. It was recently put in within the last couple of years. Since they owned it, it was put into the 100-year floodplain, and they were paying flood insurance. And then they said that they just found out that it had been taken out, and they were dropping their flood insurance. I'm like, that's great. We don't have to have it. So the whole thing moved forward. We got it, and now we're being told, all right, well, it looks like it's in the floodplain. I'm like, no, it was taken out. That's what they told us. It was closed. And this whole process was, at the time, we were relatively, new and in town, and this, we weren't ready at the time we first moved into the house. We weren't ready to buy, or we weren't in a position to buy. So, broker, our boss, who happens to be Rhonda's uncle, bought it because he buys properties and he rents them. So he basically bought it and rented it to us, and then we paid him rent for a year until we were into a better financial position, and then we bought it. So it actually went through 2 sales. It went through 2 closings, all under the understanding that it was not in the floodplain, and nobody questioned it. So two loans went through, 2 mortgages, one conventional and then ours FHA, and it never came up that it was in the floodplain. So now all of a sudden we're being told by agents that it's in the floodplain. Now, I'm a real estate agent, licensed real estate agent, and I've dealt with licensed real estate agents for the last several years in property management, and I gotta say, there's a lot of really, really, really dumb ones out there. And I'm not just saying that to be mean. It's true. There's a lot of them. I'm like, one, I don't know how you were able to pass the licensing exam, and some of them I just don't know how they lived as long as they lived. They're really. There's been times where I'm embarrassed to even say that I'm a licensed real estate agent, because that's the level of intelligence I was seeing in some of these people. So when somebody calls me up and says, "Hey, this, and this," I'm skeptical, just because of years and years and years of experience. So when agents are calling up and saying, "Hey, this home is in the floodplain and you don't have it on your listing, you didn't disclose that," and I'm like, it's not. Of course, I'm not an engineer. Don't study floodplain maps, and all I've got is a survey that was given to us when we closed, and the word of a seller that said it had been taken out. So we have to go through this whole process, and getting a survey is part of the process of closing, and the survey comes back and says, "Oh yeah, it's in the floodplain." I'm like, "Oh, great." So this is a potential deal killer here, and so it's been a little bit nerve-wracking, but there is a process through this, and we're pretty flexible with trying to negotiate and get this sale closed. The people that have put in the offer really, really want it, and we really want to move on to the next phase of our life. So we've got a mutual connection there. We both have desires that fit each other's needs, but closing a real estate deal has a lot of different aspects to it, a lot of different requirements that need to be met, and it's a time-consuming process. So now here we are at the end of June. We've been through most of March, all of April, all of May, and now all of June, and we still haven't closed yet, and we're waiting for these last few details, one of them being this elevation certificate, which will determine and prove that the home itself, the living area of the home, the actual structure is not in the floodplain, but the floodplain does run across the property. Not a big deal. So it was supposed to have been ordered on Monday, supposed to be completed by Friday, and happened to find out this morning that it didn't get done yet, and then come to find out that they don't invoice that. You can't add that into the closing and have it settle at closing. It has to be paid for up front. So this is where my lesson comes in, my frustration and my anger. I've been keeping it at bay. I've actually been very upbeat. I took this part-time job, and it's been taxing on my body. I've had to adjust to long shifts on my feet, and no eating, no breaks, no sitting, so it's been taxing, but I've been adjusting, and I actually this last couple of days felt really good. So I'm off the next few days, but I also took it because we needed a little bit of extra money to come in to kind of bridge that gap from where we are now to when this house closes. So it was a certain financial necessity to that, but wasn't an absolute. When I set out this plan, there was contingencies for certain levels of time, that if it evolved to this point and the house hadn't sold yet, then we moved to this phase of our financial existence. And it's getting to the point now where we're starting to have depleted most of our resources. But there's still, we still have time. It's still, the ability to close all this out and pay all that stuff off, everything that we've spent over the last couple months, and continue to move forward in a very positive way. But again, fear and doubt and frustration, and I'm an anger junkie. I always have been, and that's been one of the things that I've been working on for the last number of years, is not allowing that to have an impact on how my life evolves. That I don't need to draw in circumstances to get angry, but there's a lot of things that have been happening over the last couple of months that my mentality, I would be driven or drawn to anger, rage, just due to the frustration, fear, and all of that. And today was one of those days. So I woke up this morning and I felt very upbeat, very excited about everything moving forward, and then got this news that this elevation certificate not only was not ready, but needed to be paid for. And the thing is, I had made financial contingencies to cover that if needed, because that had come up prior to all of this. If we needed to do this, this was going to have to be something that was going to be paid for up front, like the survey. And I had reserve credit set aside specifically for those things. So as soon as it came up this morning, I immediately started to lose my temper. And it was it was building and building and building, and it was coming out. I was releasing it. I was voicing my frustration to our agent, and then again to my wife. And it was, the more I was voicing it, the more it was building up, and the more it was building up, the more I wanted to express it. And I felt like a ticking time bomb, just building pressure, building pressure, building pressure, building pressure, building pressure, just waiting to explode and take out everything around me. And in the back of my mind, there's this little whisper of a voice saying, "You'll be fine, just let it go. All you're doing is making things worse. You don't have to view things this way." And it was, the rage side was almost deafening, and then you got this little whisper of a voice trying to calm that storm. And me, from a logical standpoint, and I'm like, you know what? Everything I believe in, as far as creating your own existence and generating the things that you want in your life and not the things that you don't want, this is all wrong. I am functioning improperly here. I'm not functioning the way I should be functioning to generate the thing that I want in this life. I'm allowing fear, frustration, and a pattern of anger and rage influence and affect how my life is going to evolve. So I've really been telling myself ever since that it's going to be fine, just let it go, get over it, get over it, get over it, get over it. I mean, this has been going on in my head over and over and over, and get over it, get over it, get over it. And I was like, it'll be fine. So I go home because I have this reserve credit card that I don't carry with me. So I go home, I make a call to the title company, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be upbeat. I'm going to be happy with these people. I'm not going to express any kind of negative vibe, any kind of frustration. I get the guy on the phone, and it's a good conversation. It's a good exchange. I give him the information, and when the conversation was done, I felt good. I felt like I had successfully balanced out and eliminated that progression of anger, which is detrimental to me moving forward, to me doing this. The more I think, shit, what if this doesn't work? Or, wow, this really isn't going to work. Or I start thinking about, all right, this isn't going to work, and this is what I'm going to do if it doesn't work. I'm creating that. And it was very difficult to shift out of that mindset, to negate those thoughts. But I did it, and I felt pretty good about it. And I got in the car and started heading here to take care of some of the things I needed to take care of, get some supplies for the house, groceries, things like that, get gas for the car. And got about halfway here, and I get a phone call from a number I didn't recognize, and I answered it because I have been showing houses too on the side, and I get calls from leads occasionally that I need to respond to. And this guy from title company, he's like, hey, I'm sorry. He's like, but I think I miswrote your credit card numbers. He's like, I don't want to enter it if it's wrong. And I'm like, that's fine, no problem. And he's like, I'm going to need those numbers again. And I'm like, immediately that spark went, that anger started to build again. And I was like, well, I'm on my way to the store. I just left the house. I don't have that card with me. I said, but I'll turn around. And then I'm starting to think. It's starting to snowball. Can't believe that I have to turn around now. I can't believe that the universe is trying to test my patience, and I'm going to lose my temper. I'm going to drive like a maniac to get back there, and I'm going to be road raging it the whole way. Anybody that does anything to me that I don't like, and I'm going to lose my temper, and there's going to be, this is what's going on in my mind as I'm talking to this guy in about a 20-second period. And I was like, I'm going to turn around. He's like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, hey, it's fine, whatever. And I turn the car around and I go back home. And the whole time I'm like, I need to stop this. I need to stop this. And get back to the house, get my credit card, and I go to call the guy back, and I'm mentally telling myself, you know what? I'm going to be upbeat. I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be so positively expressive vocally over the phone that it's going to change the whole dynamic of this. And that's what I did, and it worked. I got the guy on the phone. I was laughing. I was joking. He was extremely apologetic, and which is nice, but he didn't need it. He legitimately felt bad, and he didn't really need to. But there was a period there where I was like, he should feel bad. He's fucking up my whole life. He's fucking up my whole morning, which he wasn't. He wasn't doing any of that. I was doing that based on a simple miswrite of a couple numbers. And then it started to hit me again, over and over again. This was planned for. There was a contingency for this, and it's working. I planned this, and my plan is working. It's not working to the optimum effect of, I want to put the house on the market, sell it in a couple of days, take the money and live happily ever after. It's been a trying experience, but it's been a fantastic learning experience for me, because I've been able to identify once again that I still struggle with these things. And it's it's a constant battle, I guess is probably the best word, or as good a word as any, for me to maintain a positive outlook on life, and still battling the desire and the urge and the quick reaction of anger due to fear and frustration. So I turned around and got back in the car, and I was thinking about it, I actually started the recording as I was leaving, but was thinking about it, and I've been talking about it and kind of talking my way through it. But I was looking back on it, and it could have gone the opposite direction, because initially what I was doing is I was thinking about the thing that set me off, the unfortunate circumstance of not having this required flood certificate on the day that we were supposed to have it, the unfortunate circumstance that I needed to be paid for now, and the unfortunate circumstance that I had to change my plans for the morning to go back home and get card information and take a step out of my day to handle that, and then have to do it again. And in my mind, when all this starts going on, you start running it through your mind. This and this happened, and then the more you run that through your mind, the more angry you get, and then you start thinking about how you're going to tell other people this story, and how you're going to express how angry you were, and that bolsters that and builds that. And then you start thinking about all the things that you're going to do if one more thing happens, one more button gets pushed, and I'm going to lose it, and I'm going to do this and this, or this and this could happen, and I'm going to, and you're creating this whole bullshit negative whirlwind of potential outcomes for yourself that are counterproductive to everything that you want to do. And I went through all of that in the last hour and 20 minutes. And now I'm finishing up this recording just because it's fresh. It just happened. And it's having those reactions and understanding them, and rebounding, figuring out a way to change that perspective back to something positive, that everything's going to be fine. This is all going to work out. And one of the key things that I noticed when I was talking to them, because I talked to two different people at the title company in this process this morning, and never once did they say, if, or we're going to try. It just kept saying, we're going to close this loan, we're going to close this sale. So when we close this sale, this is going to happen. We need this to close this sale. We're getting all this to close it. There was no ifs, there was no doubts, there was no questions of potential. It was just an outright, it's going to happen. And it just reminded me that I need to do that. I need to keep doing that. And I have been. And it's, again, sometimes it's that little whisper of a voice in the back of my head going, this is going to be fine, this is going to be fine, this is going to be fine, everything's going to work out, you made plans, this is going to work out. And sometimes it's battling this trumpet blaring, blasting other voice in my head going, what if? And the quieter voice is winning out. It doesn't take as much positivity to combat the negativity, if that makes sense. And on a scale, you can have, a minute fraction of a percent of a positive outlook towards something, and you can have a tremendous amount of negativity on the other side, and you can use that little speck of positive outlook to offset. The positive is definitely more powerful than the negative. It's just that a lot of the times we don't recognize that negative, and we get submersed in it, and it wipes out even that little bit of positive, and then you're stuck in there. And I touched that point this morning. I hit that point The second that I was told that that certificate was not ready today and would not be ready today because it hadn't been paid for and it still needed to be paid for, my mind immediately went into that negative abyss and was in a place of, that's it, everything's done, it's ruined, my life is ruined. And that's, I think, a pretty common reaction that a lot of people have in circumstances that they're involved in, that they put a lot of pressure on. And it's just the ability to find that little bit of positive and continue to build on it. And even if it's just saying it over and over and over and over in your head, it'll be fine, this is going to be fine, this is going to be fine, this is going to be fine, until it actually starts to echo and reverberate and becomes the only outlook that you have on your movement forward. So that's it. That's what I've got. That's my lesson for today, and it's been a good lesson to have, to be able to express and share. But it's one of those lessons that I could have probably done without. It would probably been better off if none of that had happened. But hey, what fun would life be if you didn't have all that stuff, didn't have all that contrast, and didn't have all that struggle with yourself? That's what I tell myself anyway. That's it.